Can you hear me okay? No,
I can hear you perfectly. In fact, we're live. So there we go. What? Everybody can hear you. Yeah, I know.
Poor guys.
Episode 36 of the We All Serve podcast. That's right. We are back. We are back. And Angel, before we get into our topic over here, you know what the number 36 symbolizes to me?
No.
Okay. So I'm still fascinated by your deployments in the Navy. You've been to Israel once or more than once?
I didn't go to Israel in the Navy. We were supposed to go there on the George Washington. We're going to go to Haifa. But then the USS Cole was in our strike group, and they got blown up in Yemen, and they canceled all port visits, and we ended up staying underway for like 100 days or something like that. I went to Israel when I went to study in grad school, and I got to go to Collar. I think it's Collar or Recanati, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, so I misunderstood. I thought you were there through the Navy, but okay, that's really cool. So, number 36. So in Hebrew, you've probably seen the necklaces Chai. Chai means life. So basically the numerical value of the letters Chai, which again Hebrew word for life, is 18. Everything is in numbers. So 2 times 18 is 36. So this is how my mind works, is that as we schedule this, I was super excited because this is a great episode number. So it's very appropriate that we've got such great guests. You're like, whatever.
Hey, do you guys have any numbers that you don't like to use? Because in Mandarin, they have numbers like the number 4, I think it's Er, San, Wu, Bush, or something like that. I used to speak Mandarin, but they don't like the number 4. Do you guys have any numbers you don't like?
Not really. No, not really.
Okay. Hey, no. What's the cool number? The number of years our guest has been in the Army.
Oh my God,
that's a huge number. He makes me feel like a youngster.
Are you calling him old?
To that guy.
We can have a conversation about his age because he's not live. So,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I could see his face and his reaction at the bottom of my screen, but nobody else can. So that's kind of fun.
He's not so bad. He's out of state, right? He's not looking at me. He's not looking at me funny. Okay.
He's kind of looking at you kind of funny. But wait, before we talk about Mike and before we bring Mike in, can we talk about next week, Megan?
Megan Everett from the McCormick Foundation. Yeah, she's exciting. I mean, I can't wait to have her on. She does so many amazing things, like big picture strategic things that you'll probably see the results of like 4 or 5 years down the pipe. Just talk about such a mover and shaker. I'm stoked.
Yeah, me too. I'm really, really excited about that. So that is actually at this exact time next week. So make sure you set your calendars. And if you need a reminder, text Angel. He's happy to send out personal reminder emails to absolutely
everyone. Megan, I'll do it.
There we go. See, I knew it.
My shipmate.
I totally knew it. All right, so let's jump in because I know we are going to have
remind everyone to, if you like the content or you don't like the content, we want to hear about it. This is an interactive. This is your platform. It's for all of us. And if you want to see something or someone, please get us feedback on that and like, share, tell your buddy, tell your grandmother, whatever you got to do. Just keep promoting. And the more people we reach and the more people we're able to help, the better we feel that we're serving a purpose and we're really giving back to our brothers and sisters.
I'm glad you said it. So your grandmother is out there watching?
She's 94 years old, and she is like 3 foot tall, and she had 13 kids. I think they call her the bionic uterus. She was picking out kids like the whole Vietnam era. I think your whole army platoon was furnished by my grandmother.
There we go. Mike is laughing over here, so I'm going to bring him in because he's got a big smile on his face. So there we go. Usually CSMs are known as like these big bad, scary monsters, and I just wanted to prove that is not always the case. So there we go. We've got Command Sergeant Major retired Mike Hall, who, as Angel just said, in fairness, it was Angel that called you old. It wasn't me.
And he's chronologically sophisticated.
There we go. There we go. He brings over 34 years of military service and 9 years of commercial sector experience, and sits on the Wounded Warrior Project Board of Directors. And he is the executive director of the Three Rangers Foundation, on the board of many organizations. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but he is currently the honorary command sergeant major of the 75th Ranger Regiment. And he has continued his service in many, many different capacities. His military career began back in 1976. That's right, 1976, not 1776. He served in a variety of positions over the next 3 decades, leading up to his appointment as the Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Special Operations Command in 2001, served in multiple deployments, and retired from active duty in 2008, but apparently Army couldn't do without him, so he's brought back in 2009 to assume the role of Command Sergeant Major for the International Security Assistance Force, and then again retired from active duty in 2010. Many, many, many awards, and again has this recognition of the longest-serving Command Sergeant Major of the Ranger Regiment. So truly, truly an honor. Mike Hall, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Did they have the Al Pacino moment where you went, just when I get out, they pull me back in? Great to meet you, Mike. Definitely a pleasure. And I'm so excited to talk to you about.
I think Al Pacino was that little icon up there. I read that the other day. He was actually the original icon for Facebook, I believe. So, little Al Pacino.
Really?
Of course, I think Al Pacino played a ranger in a movie too, Son of the Woman or something like that.
He was wah, and he did the chokehold thing on the guy.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see someone do that. My 2 best friends are Rangers, and it's just funny because I told them we were having you on, and they were like, "Real shit, Mike Hall." I was like, "Yeah," and they didn't even say he owes me money. They didn't say that either. But Mike, if I could, Shalom, you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Please.
Mike, we're gonna get to your career and everything, but the one thing I always wonder is, and I get asked by corporations with my firm, is how do military? Because I've known military leaders, Master Chief. I was in the Navy, so Master Chief, Sergeant Majors, Colonels, Captains, warrants. I was a warrant. So some people struggle because they have a very limited leadership toolbox, and it's more of a, this is what's on my sleeve, so you better do what I say. And I've always found that that's not a good. You're pretty myopic. You've been very successful in corporations and leading, and it's transferred over. And what do you think are some of the tools that you built earlier in your military career that enabled you to make that transition successfully?
Well, one thing I learned very early from my leaders was one with humility, obviously. Some people, everybody talks that, everybody says that's the number one trait, but it's different to act it. And, that's one thing I learned. Another thing I learned is, leaders, people don't do the really, really hard things in life because somebody tells them to do. The squad doesn't charge the machine gun bunker that's spitting out bullets because the lieutenant says charge the machine gun bunker. They do that because they have confidence in their leaders, that their leaders have thought through what they're asking them to do. They know that they're in the best hands. They have confidence on the people on their left and right. And that leader has earned their respect that they're going to do what he asks them to do. Because nobody does really hard things in life because they're told to do it. I mean, they're asked to do it. And leaders, leadership to me is really, really hard. It's something you have to do every day. You have to think about it.
Wow.
Leadership
every day,
is,
huh?
Yeah. And I think I did, maybe because I'm a pretty sensitive guy. People, your friend may say, no, he's not, but yeah, I'm a pretty sensitive guy. And I think that about all the time because what's always driven me was to not to let my folks down, and, working hard to earn respect every day. And so, I had an old first sergeant tell me that, being a leader is like, it's like being, on parade 24/7, where you're out there in the middle of the field and
Yeah,
you're the
everybody's watching.
person in charge, and everybody's looking at you. Everybody's
Yep.
looking at everything you do.
Yeah.
You in the middle parade field. They can't really hear what you're saying, but they watch what you do. And I've always tried to look at life. Of course, I haven't always been successful. I have a lot of things that that I regret. I have a lot of things that I said that I regret. Hopefully
Yeah.
not. Hopefully my actions have overcome that with many folks. But that's what I learned is you've got to learn the respect of you got to earn the respect of your folks every day. And it's not, leadership is up, down, and sideways, and you got to treat everybody the same, and you got to lead everybody the same. If you're a senior to folks, you got to treat those same. You got to treat them and be the same kind of person as your peers, and you got to be the same kind of person to your superiors, because everybody figures that out pretty quick. If they see that you're a different person, no, depending on what environment you're in. So I think that's what I learned, and that's what I always strove to do. And again, I thought about it all the time. Again, to me, leadership was work. It was something that I think in one way or another, I thought of all the time. And like a lot of things I'm going to say tonight. I mean, I wasn't always that way. You know, a lot of things that I'll say aren't necessarily the way I did things, but they're the way I wished I had done things. Because you never really learn your job. You never really learn, until you left it and you look back. So, I mean, sometimes we leaders get in that rut where they can be frustrated because folks aren't doing what they thought they're supposed to do. And when you were in that level, you didn't make those mistakes, but yeah, you did. You just forget about them.
Or all new mistakes.
One time, and we all learned and we all matured. And some of the things I did and the way I thought when I was younger, I've changed over the years because fortunately I was around great people that taught me great lessons. And I do think I think the lessons that I learned along the way are probably a third from the folks that were under me, a third from my peers, and a third from my leaders. I really do. And it's hard for me to pick out any one person. Like I got vignettes of different people that affected my life very significantly. My first squad leader, had a tremendous effect on me. But yeah.
So Mike, go ahead.
He's just king. He just tells people to jump over the side of the boat, and they all do that because they don't want to mess with masterpiece. But the Army's not like that. You gotta.
So, Mike, I have to ask. Going back to 1976, you joined the Army. Why? Why did you jump in? Why did you walk into a recruiter's office?
And there wasn't a lot of good sentiment about the Army or the military as a whole around that time. People were like really hating on it, right?
No, I didn't grow up too well off. I spent most of my life growing up on welfare, so we weren't well off. I mean, you look back, you weren't missing things, but I mean, I don't think I was going to go to college because that really, because I wasn't very smart, or I didn't do very good in school, so a scholarship wasn't there. I thought it was a really good in sports, and I thought I should get a scholarship to do that, but unfortunately the coaches didn't see it the same way, so that wasn't going to happen. But it was also, I mean, that was sort of the things you did in the mid '70s. I was still of that culture in Northeast Ohio that a lot of folks, you graduated high school and you went in the service and you served your 3 or 4 years and you came back out and you went to work for, maybe you went to community college, or you went to work for U.S. Steel or Ford Motor Company or General Motors or Cleveland Electric or something like that. And that's sort of kind of what you did. I mean, you went in to serve, and that was a culture. I had a couple uncles that I greatly respected, that's what they did after high school. You joined the service. One joined the Air Force, one joined the Navy, but that's just sort of what you did. And I didn't give it a lot of thought, quite frankly. I didn't know I didn't know how the military had come out of Vietnam. I learned that much later, but yeah, I went down there, and I actually always wanted to be a Marine, and so I'd sort of signed up to be a Marine. I walked in, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to be an infantry guy." And they said, "Oh boy, this is 1976 after Vietnam. I mean, they had to pay guys like $1 gazillion to go infantry." And so I said, "Oh, we got a sucker here." And I was walking out in Lorain, Ohio, right next to the Marine Corps recruiting station was the Army recruiting station, and a Army major was standing out there in his khakis smoking a cigarette. That's what you did back then. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm being a Marine." He goes, "What do you want to do?" "I want to be a Marine infantryman." He goes, "We got something better. We got Rangers." I said, "What's a Ranger?" So he took me in, and he told a bunch of stories about the Ranger Battalion, which were all made up because the Ranger Battalion was brand new. And I signed a bunch of papers, and I was still too young because I was delayed enlistment, and I took it up to my mom, and I said, I need you to sign these. And she said, "Why?" I said, "So the recruiter can talk to me because I'm too young." She goes, "Okay," and she signed it. And of course, what she signed was for my permission to join the service, and that's what I did. So
Wild! What a wild ride.
Now, you went through Ranger School, and which is an incredible task. And I'm sure you went to your first, they call it a regiment or something like that, Ranger Regiment, or
just battalions. Then the regiment.
Thank you.
It was the first Ranger and the second Ranger Battalion. Yeah.
At what point in your career did you say, "Man, I mean, you have a long career and very full and a lot of stories." And I always tell people, if you haven't served with people that came in the military under the draft era, you haven't lived. Because it's a different class of people, man. The stories that we could share, I'm sure, are phenomenal from the draft era. But I wonder, it seems like some of them were mentors and stuff, and showed you good and bad leadership traits. At what point did you say, "You know what, I kind of want to do this? This is kind of my thing"?
I never really did. I mean, I got lucky.
I'm still waiting for that minute.
Everything that my recruiter told me did not come true. I mean, we went to basic and AIT, and the drill sergeants, stood up there one day and called off a bunch of names, and I got on a bus to go to airborne school, and I said, "Hey, I'm supposed to go to airborne school." Drill sergeant says, "No, you ain't." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to the Ranger Battalion." He goes, "No, you ain't. You're going to 24th Infantry Division." I said, No. So I'm sure the recruiter just misunderstood things, but it all worked out. I ended up going to the replacement detachment there, and at Fort Stewart, and a first sergeant named Gary Carpenter and two staff sergeants that looked like King Kong showed up and said, "Be a Ranger." I said, "That's what I signed up for." So they gave me the old 5-event PT test, and they didn't really pay any attention. Some of the guys that go through rip and rasp now can't understand that. So I got there, and my first day, my squad leader gathered me around with the whole squad, and he said, "Well, this is we got some standards here. We're a starch and spit shine unit, and you know how to spit shine your boots?" I said, "No." So he grabbed one boot and he shined it, and he gave the other boot to somebody else in the squad, and they shined the other one. And he said, "You got it?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." He goes, "You know how to iron?" "Iron?" I won't say anything, but I said, "No, I don't know how to iron." So he starched one of my fatigues. They were the old Vietnam era cami fatigues that we were wearing back then, and
The olive green ones.
they were camouflage. They were before. They were OG 107s, but they were camouflage. They were still the same ripstop. And then 5 other guys disappeared, and they came back with my uniforms all starched, and we sew on our rank here because we're paratroopers, and you know how to sew? No. And so he sewed it, and and then the rest of the squad sewed all my stuff, and that was my reception and integration. And wow. Yeah, the NCOs were pretty tough, but that taught me teamwork. And I was never a runner, and the Ranger battalions back there were very, very physical. I mean, very physical. And but I was never going to quit because I was never going to let this guy down. I mean, it didn't matter what the unit was doing. I just wasn't going to let him down because he had earned, immediately had earned my respect because
he took care of you. He grabbed you and owned it and said, "This, you're part of us."
Yeah. And I mean, and again, there was, the Army, the non-coms could be physical back then, but not physical in, because they had power and you didn't kind of physical. I mean, there was times to be physical because that was the method that was needed at the time, to bring your point home. But it wasn't mean. It wasn't for the sake of being mean, but I don't recall any bad examples. And, we had what I like to call, and I could be wrong, so I only know a very small sliver of the Army. We had the best of the professional non-commissioned officers left in the Army had migrated to the Ranger Battalion. So I did like 3 or 4 years. I'd gotten married in that time. My wife was she was delayed enlistment also. We met after we enlisted. She joined the Navy, spent 4 years in the Navy. She was the first group of women enlisted women to go on ships out of Norfolk on the USS L.Y. Spear. We got married in '78, and we thought, it came time to re-enlist. She got out, and I thought, well, I'll do another hitch. I really like this, and things went along. She got pregnant. We had our son, and I thought, well, let's stay in a little bit longer. And because I really liked what I was doing, and back then you didn't have to leave the Ranger Regiment as long as you could hang, or the Ranger Battalion as long as you could hang. And subsequently, I made Sergeant Major, and I was transferred to be the Sergeant Major of 3rd Battalion 187, 101st, and I was driving home from work, and I was looking at my LAS, your leave and earnings statement, and up in the upper right-hand corner, it had years of service, and it had 20. And I pulled off the side of the road, and I go, holy smokes, how did this happen? I could be tired. How did this happen? I mean, that's just the kind of career that I had and the kind of people that I was involved with. I mean, I enjoyed it. I got a lot of satisfaction of being in organizations where, it was serving with people that thought, that understood there was something bigger than themselves. They were willing to sacrifice for others. Good cause. And that's really my story on how it happened. And, I never wanted to be a Sergeant Major. Quite frankly, there weren't a lot of senior NCOs back then, and it has to do with the way the Army was. That really stood out to me. I just wanted to be a Ranger Rifle Company First Sergeant, and I thought I'd get out because, what kind of job satisfaction can you have when you become a Sergeant Major? But I became one and found great, I found I was able to influence, and then moved up to different levels. And every time I thought I'm not going to do this, and I was able to move up to different levels, and I think I was able to make an impact. And and then when it came time to retire, there just wasn't anything else I wanted to do. There weren't any jobs out there that interested me, and I retired. And as you said, I was retired for about 364 days, and I was asked to come back because it was something that I thought was important. Someone asked me to do, someone that I respected. I thought the mission was important. I thought we had the support to do the mission, and so I came back in.
So, Mike, when you look at today's Army, I always hear a lot of comments from folks that I know, retirees, and they say, well, it's not the same Army. It's not the same Army. They look at the uniforms that are perhaps a little more comfortable. They look at the boots that don't need to be shined, and they look at the training. And, a lot of the comments right now are, basic training, there's no shark attack or something like that. I don't know. Everybody has a comment on something. How do you feel? Is it the same Army that you were in?
Yeah, it's much better. I mean, I'm lucky, as you mentioned, the honorary Sergeant Major of the regiment, and so I get to stay in touch with what's going on. They have a selection assessment process, and sometimes I'll sit on the boards to provide some background or some professional development for the officers and non-commissioned officers coming into the unit. And yeah, it's a good thing I made Sergeant Major when I did, because if I joined today, there's no way I would have risen to those ranks. The Army has gotten much smarter on how they train people, on how they lead people. The equipment is much better. They're certainly more educated. For the most part, they are more motivated for the right reason. I mean, we went through a period, as y'all may remember, when the military basically recruited people to get them out. I mean, join the Army, join the Navy, get a skill, and remember that, Chief? I mean, I mean, the military basically recruited people to get out, and they came in for education and benefits and all that, not to be professional military folks, and that's really changed. You know, the 9/11 has obviously had something to do with that. I think the enlisted ranks recovered from Vietnam much quicker than the officer ranks, but you know, especially since the war, I mean, our officer ranks, the quality of the commissioned officers that I see now is just, I mean, night and day from. I mean, we had some good officers, obviously, in the 70s and 80s in the ranges. We always had quality officers, but not the quality we have now. Not as smart, not as innovative. You know, not as good leaders as you know. They're much better leaders and much smarter than we had. You know, much more dedicated than we had back then. So yeah, the Army. You know, a lot of the things we used to do were not the smartest things. You know, shark attacks and stuff like that. I mean, there at one time there was a purpose for that. You know, but like a lot of things, sometimes the purpose of something can get lost, and it just becomes, you know, just, you know, why are we doing that? You know, why is that a standard? Why, you know, why is that important? You know, and sometimes then you really need to ask that. And it's not if it's easier or it's harder. You know, it's just different. Are you meeting the same standards? I mean, the military is it's much more physically in shape than it was when I got in. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Much more educated. You know, much more innovative. So yeah,
I love that you said that, because I always think about the things that we went through back in the day, and like crossing the lines. In the Navy, we have different traditions, crossing the line ceremonies, the Navy chief initiation piece, and just getting dogged out for 6 to 8 weeks. And I just didn't see any value. Like your point, I didn't see any value in some guy who's retired, who used to wear an anchor back 20 years ago, coming and getting in my face and screaming at me, who's never even met me, doesn't care about my development or my professional, you know, how I lead people, doesn't know me from Adam, and wants to just dog me out. And I'm like, what's the value in this? Let's do smarter things. So when people go, do you miss it? You know, do you miss the old traditions? I'm like, no.
Yeah, and you know, again, it's just, you know, people lose the meaning of why certain things were done. I mean, you know, a lot of units are famous for, you know, what they call harassment, and there was certainly, and you know, there was certainly a lot of that went on in the Ranger battalions at different sizes. You know, I tell my integration stories, it wasn't like that. Well, yeah, it was, you know, and but then they'll tell their horror stories, and that's because you know, people forget that there was a reason. I mean, when General Abrams formed the Rangers battalions, he said there will be a rite of initiation, you know, but he didn't mean harassment. He didn't mean sophomoric, you know, people have power over you just to make you do stupid things. You know, he meant, you know, there needed to be a rite of passage, you know, for you to understand what it was to be part of this organization. And, you know, different, you know, throughout the years, sometimes that got lost, I think. And I think most people will agree with that. I mean, at the end of the day, the purpose, even though it in many cases it should have been done differently and better, I mean, it works. It turns people into better people. It turns them into a better organization. But sometimes there's better ways to do it. But it does work, and everybody looks back and they go, I didn't understand what was going on at the time. I still don't agree with everything, but I sure am glad that it happened, because I'm a different person, and I'm glad it happened. I wish, some people will take it the wrong way and say, nah, now it's your turn. And some people will say, no, there's a smarter way to do this. And I think that's what we got in a lot more than anything else, is there's a lot more people going, now there's a smarter way to achieve this.
I see that in most of my Ranger friends. In it, what you said was, you go through this vetting, this gauntlet or whatever of training, and it's to assure that the people you look around not only have the same competency and endure it and communicate and understand things the same way, but they're a cut above. They're not the guy you got to worry about, look to the left and right. You know that they're going to be of the same caliber and character because you went through the same thing that they do. And there's great value in that.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be, people have to be tested. They have to be stressed. But there's, the most U.S. military organizations, their tests, their stress, their assessment, was based on the British SAS model, which was very good, and they used physical events. But that's a good example. I mean, they use physical event to to be able to look at you as a person and say, this is the kind of person. I mean, yeah, there was minimum standards, but it wasn't about being the best in shape. It was, they ran you through physical tests because that was a tool that was a stress they put you through to see how you reacted to it. I mean, it's like, you want someone on a 2-mile run that finishes in 12 minutes and hasn't broken a sweat. Yeah, you probably maybe can use that guy in your organization. But then what about the guy that crosses that line in 15 minutes and trips over the line and pukes all over himself and couldn't move another muscle? I want that guy too, because I can get that guy in shape, but to get that kind of motivation,
the heart is there.
Yeah, the heart, that's the kind of person that I really want, because I know the person's never going to let me down if I show him the proper leadership, and I can get anybody in shape in 6 weeks. Well, I used to be able to get anybody in shape in 6 weeks. I'm past the phase of getting old. I'm now old. So, but
hey, Mike, they might call you back in for round 3.
I don't know what we need me for.
It's a wild journey that you've had. So you've come across a lot of people, and I you and I talked. I commissioned through OCS, so we were right down the road from the infantry school, and constantly hearing shouts of "Rangers lead the way." So that is not just a line that's referring to, I think, as you were just alluding to and Angel was talking about, in terms of military service. Rangers do lead the way, and hopefully there are lessons that you have learned from your experience that you've taken into the civilian side of things. I know that you have been a soldier at heart, soldier for life, in every step of the way. But what are some of the leadership lessons that you feel that Rangers today bring into the workforce, and that you are proud of marketing through the Three Rangers Foundation?
Yeah. I think what Rangers bring for the most part is one, they understand how to work with people from all kinds of different backgrounds. I mean, most of us grow up in very sheltered is probably the wrong word, but we grow up, with a very narrow circle of friends. We're around people that are like us for the most part. We all are. I mean, that's probably even different now from the mid '70s. I lived in some places that were very, very diverse. Some of my younger years in what we used to call the projects. I think they call them housing nowadays. But but the military teaches you that people are different, and everything. Some of the things that you thought you knew, once you get to talk to people and learn, and learn about other people, you realize, no, that's not exactly true. That's true to you. But other people have a very different perspective of it, and being able to understand that. I'm not sure empathy is the right word. It's true understanding of that people see things differently, because we're all products of our experiences. So, especially in the military, especially in the Rangers, you have a very, very diverse background. I mean, you get everything from PhDs. I once had a pediatrician grenadier in my company, so the Army figured that out and made him become a doctor. So you get everything from folks like that to farm guys, right off the farms. So it's very diverse, from inner city kids. It's very, very diverse. And if some people get that in college, but they don't, because again, people go to colleges with people that they grew up. It's not good. It's not bad. I mean, it's comfortable with that. Why don't you? You had relatives that go there. You had friends go there. So you go there. So you really don't get that diversity of thought and understanding in the civilian world. So that's one thing you get, is that kind of diversity, and realize that you have to understand people, and what motivates people is different. To bring them together as a team, and it has to be a team, because I mean, especially in the Rangers, everything you do is team. You're only strong as your weakest link. If somebody falls out, if somebody falls out of the run, the platoon's going to circle around and catch up with him and bring him back into formation, and they're going to start running again. So that 5-mile run, going to end up being 7 miles because you keep having to circle around, you know, and get that guy that just can't quite make it, you know, but that won't be a pattern because he's going to realize, you know, all those people are there to help him, and you know that's not going to happen much. So so one is certainly diversity. You know, Rangers sort of have a reputation because they're known as a very disciplined force, but the Rangers aren't really a disciplined force; they're a self-disciplined force. And so, you know, once you understand that, you understand, you know, that it's important to be innovative. You can't be rigid because you're going into so many situations, so many kind of unknowns. You know, that's what you're always really training for is for the unknown. So, you know, you go into any civilian occupation, you know, with a diverse group of people, and you understand, you can look around and say, you know, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. There's some technical things in there that you may have to catch on, but you know, but grabbing those people and bringing them together to motivate them to do something that's for the greater good, you know, I think that's what they bring. And you know, and if you look around at guys and gals that have gotten out of the Ranger Regiment, you know, they're usually pretty dang successful. You know, given the opportunity, they go there, they have a chance to go in an organization, and they make organizations better because they make people better, because they realize it's not about them, it's about the organization. You know, a lot of civilian organizations have figured that out, that you know, incentives aren't personal incentives. You know, it's got to be a group incentives, and you know, and those kind of organizations I think are the most successful, and that's what Rangers do, is can make organizations like that better.
You know what you described as far as how military veterans or military service members and Rangers embrace diversity and create an inclusive culture where everybody is relying on everybody else. That is just such an important thing that so many people don't get. And when you leave the service, you realize I've had rose-colored glasses. I thought everybody was like me. Everybody, you know, that's my brother Jerome, that's my buddy Twan, you know, whatever, you know. Yeah. And you realize that the rest of the, I won't say country, but a lot of places that you go aren't like us, right? And I was wondering whether there's a question here. In your experience with corporations, how do you engage with cultures and with climates where people don't really get and understand things the way we understand them?
Yeah, what I found is more than anything else, it's communication. Most organizations don't communicate well. I mean, they're very. The military is famous for chain of command, boom, 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 boom. Everything comes down there, but as we all know, that's not really how it works. I mean, it is. You know, there's you know, people come up from all levels and make the organization better. But to me, you know, most civilian organizations they're the ones that are very hierarchical, where you know the CEO, everything comes down the chain of command, and everybody, you know, whatever the boss says, everybody's got to do because they're afraid they're going to get fired or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, so I think making people understand that it doesn't have to be that way, and what you really want your every CEO will say the same thing. I need bottom-up feedback, but they don't put communication systems in to get to bottom-up feedback. You know what's famous right now is, well, we're going to have a town hall, and I had a town hall, and people told me what they really thought. No, they didn't, because their bosses are around, and
they're looking right at them.
You know, and everybody's afraid of saying anything. That's not communications, you know. But you know, it's a matter of, you know, leadership by walking around. It's a matter of having forums where you force people to communicate. And you know, again, humility comes back into that. Of every once in a while, you got to, when someone says something, you got to go, yeah, you know, we were doing it that way, but now we're going to change it. But it's not about what you say. It's about what you do. You listen to people. It's not always saying, yeah, I agree with you. You know, saying, I don't agree with you, and here's the reason why. Sometimes it makes people happier because they know they've been listened to, and you know. But then, you know, later on, as you see what they're saying, you know, maybe a change, and they see changes in how people act. So I think in corporate America, what people have to understand, and that's what the military is really good at, is communication, because you're always communicating it, and there's so many forums. The military is basically a two-up organization. I mean, it's the person 2 levels above you who really controls your career, who really controls your life. And you should have that next level of leadership. And again, most civilian organizations aren't like that. And that's what's magic about military is when you're communicating 2 levels down, instead of just getting one person's opinion, you're actually getting you're hearing it straight from the top, and you're able to ensure you get the intent. It's remember the telephone game. You all sit in a circle, and one person tells one person. It goes up. By the time it gets all the way around, what the first person said has nothing to do with it. Well, if you whisper to the next 2 people, and they whisper to the next 2 people, and they whisper to the next 2 people, i.e., communicating 2 levels, at 2 different levels. By the time it gets back around, guess what? They probably said the same thing, and that's But a lot of leaders don't want to do that because they think that they're abdicating some of their power. You're not. I mean, you're still responsible for what they do. You're still responsible for that guidance. But how many times in organizations where the CEO gets frustrated? I told people to do this. How come they're not doing it? It's because it got interpreted different. If you have an hour meeting and it's just the boss and his direct reports, and now the direct reports, they go talk to their people. So you had an hour meeting that the boss thought was really important. How much of that hour-long meeting do you think the direct reports took to their people? 7, 8, 10 minutes. So what happened to all the other information? The other part that was important. I mean, it's natural. We take it and we tell people what we think that they need to know, but we have to realize we don't know what they need to know because we don't really know their jobs. We think we know their jobs, but we don't really. So, having a robust communication, and again, you have to have a plan for it. You have to force communication. You have to make sure it's done at all levels. It has to be done rhythmically. So you make sure that you are really talking to people. If you don't, I mean, all of a sudden, a crisis happens and you go down to the head of your supply chain and say, hey, we need to fix this. And he goes, well, that's we've been doing it for a while and it's been pretty successful. And you realize, wait a minute, this has been going on for 9 months. How come I didn't know about it? Because you didn't have, good, steady communication. That's what leaders do. Leaders communicate. Leaders enable other people to be successful. And sometimes I think leaders forget that. They think that they have all the answers, but but their answers don't. What a leader says, when it goes down to 3 or 4 levels down, no one can explain to that person 3 or 4 levels down, what the CEO really wants, what his really intent is, and you'll never achieve it unless you put in good communication systems that disciplined communication systems. Again, most organizations don't do that.
Yeah, they don't put the controls in place with change management, like to garner stakeholder, the frontline stakeholders support. Because if they're usually what I found is if they're part of the solution, they usually understand the why. Give me the why.
Yep.
So tell me about Three Rangers. Tell our listeners about Three Rangers. Tell us about the important work you're doing, how they could support you, and frankly, anything else that you're involved in, because I know that, we always say on this show, we all serve. It's, you've continued to wear a different kind of uniform. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, the Army, and I assume the other services, they have Soldier for Life program. And the Rangers have taken that down to their level. They have what they call a Ranger for Life program. And that's where Three Rangers, along with our partner Gallup Few, come in to, it's really to help soldiers or help Rangers. It's a very specific mission. We only really deal with members, transitioning members, already transitioned members of the Ranger Regiment. It's not because we don't like anybody else or we don't care. It's just, I wanted to be able to know that I made a difference, to know the Three Rangers Foundation is making a difference for, a specific group of people. I mean, I think there's like 64,000 nonprofits out there, veterans nonprofits going out to help people, and everybody trying to do good things. And so we didn't want to do anything that somebody else was doing. So let's just work with a specific group of people and let's help them transition. And, it's in support of the organization. The organization has figured out if you want to keep the right people, you got to show you really care. And so a lesson I learned a long time ago, and that's been going on for the regiment for a good while now, is sometimes that means you help people leave because, you give them the information they need to get themselves better. So you lose this person. They go off and do something else. They go off to special forces or a special mission unit, or they get out. But, everybody else is looking around and saying, you know what? They helped John. They gave him 6 months to go train, to go to this other organization. They let him go to school. They gave him some permissive TDY to go to Chicago to check out this organization. They made sure that they got their VA benefits done. And they go, maybe they'll be the Mike Hall story. I really like it here. They really care about me. Maybe I'll stick around for a while because this is an organization I want to be in. So we do that. We do that through what we call a Ranger Network program. We have several hundred former Rangers that volunteer their time to Ranger gets within 18 months of transitioning. We'll link them up with some Ranger mentors that are, he wants to go into real estate. He wants to go into IT. He wants to move to Chicago. So we'll link them up with 20 or 30 folks that have already transitioned out, and they'll talk to them about the industry. They'll talk to them about what's getting out, what it is to be out there, what it is, what real life is out there, and help them make a decision. Sometimes the guys and gals will stay in. Sometimes they'll get out. You just never know, but you're equipping them with the proper tools so they can be successful once they get out. And the regiment is famous for it. The Ranger Regiment is famous for it as well. The military. We got to admit. The military is a lot family business. If you want to get people to join, you're going to have to talk to people that had a good experience in the military. So it's self-perpetuating also. But that's what we do. We work with a bunch of different organizations, what we call our community partners, folks that are truly veteran friendly. We specifically work with, or most of ours are either Ranger owned or have a Ranger influence, and these are companies that are willing to willing to look at a person versus look at a resume to give a person a good look see. Because especially if you're a combat arms guy, when you get out, you can't write a resume that's going to match any job out there. You really can't. But I don't think worthwhile work out there doesn't. People are going. They don't hire resumes. They hire people. They know someone. So that's where the Ranger the network comes in also. And it doesn't solve all the problems, but if you get out and you can find it, you can work for an organization with people that have similar attitude that you had in the service. That you feel like you can make a difference. That you like going to work, or you don't mind going to work, and you have that security. If you have those things, there are other issues out there, but if you have those things, those issues don't go away. I don't kid myself, but you know what? They're a lot easier to deal with when you don't have those kind of stressors on yourself and on your family. So that's why it's so important. And then again, once you get out, you have more Ranger buddies that you can always turn to that understand you. So that's the other part you get about it. So it's a very narrow mission. Again, not because we don't like other people. I don't want to help I'm never going to turn anybody down. I'm going to try to find them the resources. But it's an opportunity to actually help people and be able to track them and talk to them individually, and work with other folks that came up in the same kind of culture and understand what their culture is and what's gonna be satisfactory for them once they get out, because you never really find that. It's military people. The percentage of people that stay in their first job is very, very small, like 5 or 10%. Because they get out and they're looking for the same kind of people, the same kind of work environment. They don't find that, so they talk to somebody and they jump to another job and they jump to another job and they're looking for something. So again, through our network and through organizations, that a lot of organizations, everybody wants to hire vets, but there's a difference between walking the walk and talking the talk.
We call them flag wavers.
Yeah,
they wave the flag and they're full of it.
This word out there because we want to hire guys for this job, and the job requires a bachelor's degree in this, and it requires 4 to 8 years in this, in this kind of experience. Well, then what you've just said is you're not willing to hire a vet or hire a ranger because they just got out. They don't have a degree in that specialty, and they certainly don't have 4 to 8 years of experience, in that kind of.
Yeah.
So, so put it right out there, 48 years in this experience or 48 years in, of military leadership experience. If you don't put that there, people aren't going to apply because they're not going to be eligible. And again, HR is not because they're evil. That's just, the system. I mean, you're going to put your resume in and you're not going to have those prerequisites. You're never going to get looked at. You're just not. So, we try to find organizations that really care, are really willing to help. And that's understanding, what you get when you get a veteran. And it's not all those things that the normal JD would require. But, if you want to take a shot and you want your organization to be better, you hire a bunch of these people and they'll make it better for you.
Mike, I just have two last questions. I'm gonna wrap up. So you do career transition. Is there also an entrepreneur and school element to what you guys do, or is it just straight? We're gonna find you a company we can be around your kind of people.
Guys and gals that get out, they want to get into industry, they want to go to work, and they want to go to college. They want to go to school, whether it's a traditional school or technical school or whatever. So we got a bunch of guys, that have been through school. We have a great group of former infantrymen that all want to be doctors now. So we got a bunch of doctors out there that grab these guys. It's not easy to get into, really hard to get into medical school. And so we got people out there to help people get into medical school. Or we also have a bunch. We're partnering with a bunch of other nonprofits that are really good at grabbing you. And getting into any college isn't easy. It's just not filling out a form in many cases. So we got a lot of organizations and again mentors that'll say, hey, you want to get into college? Okay, here's how you do your application. And in many cases. We've already had rangers that have been through that institution, so they'll be their mentor, and they'll say, okay, go talk to Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith is the person you need to talk to if you want to get this done. And so that mentoring is also education as well as industry. But again, it's a little bit about finding jobs, but it's really about information. Giving people the information they need to make a decision. And it can and usually does end up with worthwhile work, you hope. But everybody that's been out, they have their own networks too. So again, you may not be able to directly help someone get a job, but they know other people and they're saying, hey, I'm looking for this kind of person. They go, you know what? I know one of those kind of people. I want to introduce you to this person. So I call it the Al-Qaeda model, where you have this spider web of networks of networks, and so that's very valuable too, because again, you don't have direct contact, but this your friend who you respect says, hey, talk to this person. They don't have all the little checks that you're looking for in your HR system, in your job description, but give him a shot. He's sort of like me. And you go, oh, I like you. I think we could have used people like you in our organization too. So again, it's about relationships more than anything else out there. So that's what we're trying to build out there, and the model that we use.
We have a different name for it. It's called the spider web.
Yeah,
they call it spider web. Al-Qaeda, not so nice. Can you share?
Either.
Can you share with us a success story that really, really kind of warmed your heart, made you feel fulfilled after you left the service doing this?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and
I just need one.
We had a guy in actually a unit I grew up with, and he drifted. He was medically retired as a young E4. Got busted up pretty bad, and had a lot of different kind of issues. Adjust not only because of what he had been through, but just getting out, didn't have a strong family background, and basically had floated around doing service jobs for about 4 to 8 years. And then he decided, hey, I want to go back. I want to go back to the area where I served. And, I want to meet some former Rangers that can help me. So we got him linked up with a bunch of Rangers. He thought he wanted to go into, I don't even remember what industries. He had like 5 different industries he was interested in. So I talked to a bunch of people, and after talking to one of them, he said, I want to introduce you to this person. They do real estate. He's going, real estate? I don't do real. I'm an airborne ranger. What am I going to do with real estate?
Right.
We ended up talking to this person again. Actually, 2 degrees separation from the actual ranger mentor, and they hit it off. And he explained to him what real estate was. I mean, there's all kinds of real estate just isn't selling houses. It's all kinds of different different things. And next thing I know, I get a call. He's in real estate school, and next thing I know, he's got his own franchise. And I heard just today, as a matter of fact, that he thinks he's going to close on $1 million house, and
wow.
That's coming to him. So I mean, his the problems that he was suffering before, they're still there, and he's still getting but he's happy, he's productive, he's looking forward to getting up every day because he's found something that works there. And again, that's how the network happened. And even though it was something they never thought he would do, he was talking to some civilian who had never served, but they hit it off. They had a connection through other people. He found what he thinks something he really likes to do, and he's successful and a productive member of society, and now he's reaching out and wanting to help other people. So how's that?
That is exceptional. That is so great.
It rolled off the tip of his tongue. I loved it. No, it's great. Mike, truly, thank you. And I know it's cliche to say it, thank you for your service, but you've certainly exemplified service throughout your time in uniform, and continued. And we appreciate it. And you're one of the guys that I will share a private conversation over here. Mike and I had this conversation, and as a junior officer, I think it's so important, that relationship. And I don't want to keep you for any longer, but we could have a whole separate discussion about the relationships between officers and NCOs. And you are exactly the model of why NCOs are called the backbone of the Army, and having folks like you and out there to set the standard is so important. So thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to y'all.
Yeah,
Mike,
absolutely.
thank you for everything you did, but thank you for everything you continue to do. You really, you're walking the talk and filling people's lives and making a difference every day. So thank you so much.
Thanks for getting the word out there, and I look forward to following you, and I hope the one day that we can meet in person and have a beverage together, adult or non-adult.
We'll go to the Flats and do that in Ohio. Sounds good.
Good stuff. So just before we wrap, so Angel, one more time, next week's guest.
Megan Everett from the McCormick Foundation, one of surface warfare officer, got out and has been in the not-for-profit space and really supporting veterans in a very, very big strategic way and leading the way across the state. And I venture to say across the nation with some of the initiatives she's pioneering and championing.
Great. I know a lot about it. Great organization.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great endorsement, and thank you, Greg, for those kind words, and a shout out to our friend Larry Kaufman for connecting us. Very grateful for that. Larry's the best. I was just talking about Larry a couple hours ago. Comes up in every conversation. So
he really does. It's like the fourth podcast we keep bringing up Larry.
I know. He's the honorary co-host.
Communication. I mean, that's why he's successful. That's why he helps us make them successful. He's a good person. Understands communication.
Absolutely. Well, we will call that a wrap. Again, thank you. And we'll be back here, same bad time, same bad place, next Tuesday for episode 37. I'll have to come up with a numerical significance for that number. I don't have it off the top of my head right now, but we'll get there. If you are just tuning in by video, make sure you click subscribe, and remember that we are also on your favorite podcast apps. Angel, anything to close with?
Like and share and do good work for good people.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.